Am I supposed to put the blanket on? Am I supposed to put a sheet on? And it wasn't until like embarrassingly long into my career that I actually figured out what the real answer to this is. When it comes to blanketing and putting a sheet on your horse in the winter, how do you know what temperature you're actually supposed to put the blanket on versus the sheet on, and whether your horse is clipped or not? That all of that impacts whether or not you're supposed to put things on or not. So in this video, I am going to answer that for you. If your horse is clipped or not, what temperature do you put what type of blanket on? So welcome back to my channel, #Team Fuego, where we talk about all things equestrian. I'm an English eventer and I've been eventing for over 20 years. And I remember this being such a question that I hated asking people, like, am I supposed to put the blanket on? Am I supposed to put a sheet on? And it wasn't until like embarrassingly long into my career that I actually figured out what the real answer to this is. But I figured since winter is coming up, that I figured we would have this conversation so that this information is online, it is readily available. This is something that it's one more tool in your toolbox when it comes to knowing how to take care of a horse. So there are two categories, of course. Whether you clip your horse or not is going to have a big impact, but in terms of temperature wise, that is pretty consistent. It's just a matter of whether your horse is clipped or not that's going to make the biggest impact on what type of clothing you put on your horse. Full disclosure, before we dive in, any link that I have below this video for whether it's a sheet or a blanket, I get a little affiliate commission for. So if you're opposed to affiliate commissions, then go find whatever you want. I am just putting these links down below so that if you want to buy what I have bought for my horses in the past, then there's a link. The real information in this video is about when you choose to put what clothing on your horse and at what temperature do you make those decisions. All right, so I'm going to pull up a table, and as you can see, we have the temperature categories and then we have clipped or not clipped. So when it comes to 50 to 60 degrees, this is all in Fahrenheit. So 50 to 60 degrees, if your horse is clipped, then you're going to want to do a sheet or even a lightweight blanket. But I have a feeling that the same as for not clipped, which is don't put anything on them, whether it's windy or raining will have an impact on whether or not you decide to stray from this chart. Where you live might actually, make you make a different decision, but it's really more about what the weather is doing. So if it's windy, if it's raining, then you may want more than just a lightweight sheet or even a waterproof sheet, which brings us to 40 or 50 degrees. So if your horse is clipped in this area, then a lightweight blanket becomes necessary, right? And of course, there are varying levels of lightweight blankets. And like I said, there's links down below to blankets that I have bought in the past. I personally love buying these things off of Amazon because they're very easy to return if something's not right. But if your horse is not clipped and it's 40 or 50 degrees, then it's still in the as needed category. So if it's raining, if it's windy, there might be a reason to put a sheet on. Otherwise, if it's not windy, it's not raining, and your horse has all his hair, then 40, 50 degrees, they're probably still fine. But when we get down into the 30s, that is when your horse is probably going to need some clothing regardless of if they're clipped or not. If they are clipped, then you're going to want at least a medium weight blanket to help your horse, cope and deal.
Because of course you took all their hair away, right? That's the heater.
If your horse is clipped and you're in 30-degree weather, then you're going to want at least a medium weight blanket. And if your horse is clipped, then this is when a lightweight blanket becomes necessary. 42 degrees, I read, was like the perfect temperature for a horse. So anything below that is like your horse is starting to feel the cold. But when you get into the 20s, that is when horses start needing their clothing. So for a clipped horse, that's when you get out the heavyweight blanket. So at this point, if it's 20 degrees, it's probably pretty cold regardless of what state you're in. So like I said down below, there are links for heavyweight and medium weight blankets because of course, where you live is going to be a huge variable to how much clothing and how necessary that clothing is. All right, so with that being said, I hope this video was helpful. I personally, it's an embarrassingly long amount of time into my career that it took me to know this information. So hopefully at least one person out there is being helped by this information and feels a little less insecure about when to put what clothing on their horse. So I hope this has helped, and I'll see you guys on the next one.